have been into the human capital management in the area of HR. Learning systems, digital learning has been my core forte of interest for about a decade and a half now. A significant amount of my career went into nurturing the digital university, e-university handling. I've been an e-university certified analyst with software organizations, and I'm an adjunct professor in panel with various universities. Thank you very much for a very nice introduction, team. Here today I'm to address something very interesting, very important, and the subject is evolving. That's the challenge of learning in the new age of technology 5.0. The psychology element, the relevant aspect related to every one of us, mostly the children, where the learning curve is more, and it also applies in a way to each and every one of us. Just as how, taking cue from the other luminaries, what they have been addressing about, the lifestyle as we are in today is totally different from what it has been in the last half of the decade. Every 5 years now, things have been changing drastically. So my topic for today is basically about ancient Indian learning systems through the pedagogy of storytelling as a conception and its relevance in the present era for the psychological and personality development, especially in the learners, either it is children or adolescent and beyond. That's my core area of topic. I'll give you a very good example. Now we are all with handheld gadgets, which we call them as mobile phones. We are addicted to them. There is a circadian that keeps tuning into that. Our biorhythms have changed. Our lifestyle has been changed. As a person who has been into the research of human capital and understanding a little about the organization psychology, when I'm practicing in the organizations, we notice something interesting. We humans work on clock precision unknowingly. We all have our own circadian. Only so very recently, about a couple of years back, the human circadian tuning, the research that's gone into that has received laurels and a Nobel Prize for it in the area. So the circadian rhythm of our lives have changed, which have had an effect. I'll explain you a little of the science of it. That is about a dopamine, something called as a pleasure or a reward hormone, as they call it. That's called dopamine. What this dopamine does is, this is called as, fondly called as the reward hormone in many of them. When you say reward, I'll give a good example. A small kid, somewhere around 10 to 18 years in between, and she or he is expecting a grand party for the birthday. And every year there is a process of he or she getting some really nice gifts from all the close, near and dear. That appetizes that little one to celebrate the birthday. Last year, so and so gifts, so many gifts. This year, if they are down or anything like that, it's going to affect their mood because they're upset, because it's something to do with what they're expecting in reward. Instead, if that kid is tuned in such a way that they're inclined towards having something as a reward, or you may call it as a kitty that they get into them psychologically, that is related to contentment and satisfaction. I've got so many people who have come to wish me. I've got so many friends and family has been there here for me in the grand event. If she or he is savoring that moment as a reward, that's the most happiest thing ever. So the difference between the pleasure with reward to happiness with contentment is that. The same thing is being intelligently understood by these technology firms, wherein they have defined all this scroll, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, scroll reward systems in your minds. We can't keep stopping them, isn't it? When we keep scrolling it. The same thing happens to the kids as well. How do you fix it then? So when you are addicted to something on a procession, you can't just keep stopping it because it's an addiction, because it's related to the dopamine. How do you detox your dopamine? How would the dopamine detoxicity happen to shift from reward pleasure to contentment and happiness? That was being cracked thousands of years back in our Indian university systems like Nalanda, Takshashila, or even more beyond, by a wonderful concept called as the Gurukula system, wherein they are trying to address it by using a structured, a very scientific method. You'll be surprised as what we have discovered in the recent past about these areas of it. The current ongoing research, we are doing a little on the storytelling bit with Mylapore, they call it, and it's part of the southern part of the India. He has 3 wonderful sons. They have been very, very good. There's a beautiful saying, with some of them, like education sometimes would not give all the wisdom that is needed, because education only can give knowledge. And the worth then inherent. And that can happen only through the right system, and that's somewhere embedded into it. Not being respectful, they're not filled with values, they're not treating each other well. He realized it's high time. I need to put my strong foot forward. I'm a king, they are the future of this kingdom. So I need to put them to the best man on job. They realize there is somebody by the name Vishnu Sharma, and they realize that he's running a wonderful university there, a hermit, a gurukul, and then we'll take him to them. And then when the king went, Amara Shakti, with these 3 kids to him, he said one thing, hey king, you know what, I respect you a lot, but the education system, the learning pedagogy here is totally different from what you otherwise have got in your palaces and ivory towers for your kids. If you're okay with that, we'll take it. He said, yeah, okay. So why not? So this is luminary, great leaders and kings, what we have been known about, have been doing the same thing. Go back to Hyansang or even beyond to Rama, the Krishna, the stories in the Puranas that we hear about. They went, they did the same ashrama system and they learned about it. So he realized is it really going to work? Because Vishnu Sharma ji, I have a lot of people who have been really working on this, but it's apparently not working for my kids. Trust me on this, my dear king, I have it covered. So, and then turn on few years, and then all the 3 kids turned up to be great kings. They have been part of the history, and the rest is the story we all know about. The Panchtantra has come. He has told things in the form of stories and given the moral science lessons, and the success has happened eventually. What is the psychological science around it that the great Professor Vishnu Sharma practiced for the kids of the King Amar Shakti is the formula that we have to follow. Simple 3 fundamental steps. The ancient Indian education system, as I told you about it, is not in the ivory towers, the university pedagogy, but in the nature's own lab, wherein you have 3 cardinal principles being addressed. Number 1 is about state-dependent learning. Tell me how many of you learned something on your digital medium. 2, going to a university or a college and learning have a significant positive response than what you have learned online or virtually. Right? 90% of the times it will be successful when you go to a place, put yourself in a system, learn things in a structured pedagogical format, have a more effective outcomes. Isn't that right? We all keep talking about the pandemic batches, right? Ironically. So what's happening is the learning curves are significant. Psychology has proven it, that if you are in a state-dependent ecosystem of learning, peer understanding, camaraderie, there's a lot of things that happen, and that gives you a leeway to learn quicker, faster, effective, and retain longer. Number 1, that is state-dependent learning. Go to a place, stay there, stay put yourself, stay focused, and learn. Second thing is what? Circadian tuning. As one of the doctors have been greatly putting across here, we noticed in the organization psychology, as well as I told you in the beginning of this interaction, our circadian clocks are tuned in such a way, and it takes approximately, roughly the research has it 21 days to get something set into a practice. And then you need to maintain it to be consistent enough to keep it as your lifestyle. So here, when the Amar Shakti brought his kids, they have been treated just like any other kids. They were far away from the city's hustle and bustle. They have been in a peaceful hermitage. They have had a routine lifestyle. Food, diet, sleep, retention of the knowledge, practice, rehearsal, everything is happening on a frequency, and it is consistent. So the 1 or 2 years, whatever the king's 3 children have stayed there, they have been very practically involved into it, and their circadians have been tuned. Their biorhythm has been set up in such a way they've been in a perfect format by the end of it. It's something like a retreat for them. Now even different US universities have been practicing the same thing as a retreat. You go to a retreat, you stay there, you unwind yourself, you detox your dopamine toxicity, and then you you start learning things. Okay, in so doing, you build some eminence and so on and so forth. So that's the second thing he has done. First is state-dependent learning. And second is circadian tuning, and then getting yourself into the format. And third is something even more important and wonderful. So this is very interesting. I'm sure you all as kids would relate. Even when you grow up, you would be relating to that. That is about passive listening and through that learning. What is passive listening? If I am telling my kid anything, like, I have two wonderful kids, and then if I tell them something about, like, you should, what? The moral is you should not do bad to anyone and talk bad about anyone. And the obvious thing is that why should I not? What is the logic about it? There are too many questions. But what if I put it in a perspective of a story? You know what? There is a crow by the name Karataka and Damanaka. They both have been talking about something. And you know what? It did, or it spoke ill about others and got ultimately affected. So the passive listening is the most effective form of understanding a concept. And ancient seers somehow magically knew this very well. Trust me on this. Right now, very recently, I was being very fortunate to be invited on to a great cultural forum, global forum. We have cracked some wonderful concept about our ancient Indian wisdom, and we are about to publish a series of it on Bhagavata and Bhagavata stories about it, on Lord Krishna's stories about it. And we learned that there have been more way forward scientific than ours. On that note, I would want to tell this something very important concept here, that the concept of learning is something that is very crucial in these days of as you're part of educational system here, and you're part of an ecosystem where things have been about learning and so on and so forth. And from the ancient wisdom, it's not like they've lived their life in vain, but they've given us something from their research. You don't have to reinvent the wheel again, but try to innovate it and use it for effectiveness, which is very, very important. And my core talk here majorly wanted to focus on that. On that note, I would want to tell these very key important things to all of the audience across digital mediums or across here, wherever they've been watching about it. We have seen a significant impact of these fundamental concepts, like I told you about it, of not just learning, but getting yourself engaged into any of the activities, digitally speaking, in the day today. Like, getting engaged yourself for more than 3 minutes of a time. Getting engaged into something with all your consciousness being put into. These two are something very, very important. Why? Because, I have a very interesting point here when I put it across to that. People keep, in our organizations, we keep doing this skill building sessions, personality sessions in our software setup and all that stuff, along with the technology learnings and certifications, which we otherwise do. The basic question they keep getting, people keep talking a lot about meditation. Okay, I sleep every day at peace. Like, the great seers, how they sleep. Why do you have to do meditation separately? Both, in a way, reflect the same, look like the same. What's the difference? What is the big difference between sleep and meditation? It's a common question, but a very intriguing question, because this question would lead us to settling your mind in this digital hustle and bustle of the dopamine that I told you about it, which has been across our periphery. Wherever you go about it, you have a lot of layers of light, a lot of layers of digital toxicity that keeps trying to dement your brains and then brain thought. It's so intriguing that currently now, about like 1 year back, I think, and any idea how, if you guys are here in the audience would know, what was the word given for, I think, last year. There'll be every year, there'll be a label name given to the year. I think it's last year, if I'm not wrong, or before last year. The word of the year was brain rot. The name given to the global time period that surpassed of the world of that particular period of time. They give every year a new word. So this year, I think something aligned towards technology and something like that. So I think it's last year. The name given for that year is brain rot. Brain rot, literally, when you say rot, it's rot. What's happening when you're on a short haul, reflexes, that rewards that you want to seek through quick scrolls or quick consumptions. I make sure that with my kids especially, I want to do it to myself, practice as you preach, as Mahatma Great said, that you should first make sure that you are engaged at least for a sufficient amount of time for whatever you've been doing. So that should be, according to some research, it should be at least at least more than 3 to 7 minutes. Of course, I'm not asking for a good 3 hours of a movie or a Globe Theatre of Shakespeare's for about 7 hours or 6 hours, which back in the day our great, earlier elders used to do, which is even more wonderful. Or read a book to that matter for entire 24 hours, give some bridge stops and breaks and then read it. It's even more awesome. But are we sure we can do that now? That's what was successful with Amar Shakti's children. They have been put to the scrolls. They were reading it every day. They were in a hermit very peacefully. Just imagine you're being around in a very peaceful place. There's no disturbance. Everything is on flight mode, quote unquote. And you've been really enjoying the stories, very nice stories. You don't have to learn anything. It happens by default. It's parsimonious that knowledge is directly absorbed into, translated into wisdom. This is the science and inner engineering of a little about learning, psychology. And the secret around it is basically trying to be more engaged and focused. Number one. Number two is keep off from the short haul reward systems, whatever is happening about, like the gift example or the scrolls that we do. Especially with kids, the generation as they divided Gen Z and Gen Beta, Gen Alpha. Now the Gen Beta generation is even more at a cusp of a challenge with this. They're not able to get away with this addiction, which is even more critical than the addiction of any other things like nicotine or anything like that we talk about it. So there should be a disclaimer if you call me as an ideas that we are trying to give up in the recent research that excessive digital consumption is injurious to the psychological health. Should also be a disclaimer given up in the movies or somebody holding cell phone and scrolling as a scene comes up or something like that. So that's the impact that's going to create on the at-large system. And we would want to make sure that we are all engaged in that way. Get some art. I don't know how many of you have been really stay put and engaged into something like, playing a musical instrument, singing, or like sports or anything like that sorts. Anything at all creative, which proves that we are human, right? We all go to the captures, right? The ironical situation that we have to prove ourselves to be human when you go into a digital world. The innocent inference machine is asking you, like, prove you are a human. Why should I have to prove you that I'm a human? I know I'm a human. I can paint. I know Picasso. I know Reverma. I know great artists, singers, musicians. I know I'm MJ. I can dance. You not have to prove someone a mission to see that, like, I know I am a human. I solve a number 1 + 1 = 2. And then, okay, you are a human. So it's very ironical, the current state of affairs in terms of the digital disruption that's being happening. Apparently from the industry where I am, from the software, we see a lot of changes already happening there because that's the cooking table where it gets served onto the mainstream business and so on, gets into the academia's principles and all that. We see that 5.0 to 6.0 transition of artificial intelligence absorption can happen in a good way and bad way, and the choice is with us. Making sure we are proving consciously as humans, as the legendary godfather of artificial intelligence recently said about it. Whatever you do about in the age of AI, make sure that you are having this formula in place: human, AI, human. So otherwise, teachers, students, and learners will be replaced by the bots and chatbots, and we'll be missing out on the basic point. So always go back to the ancient roots, learn from what they have used because they are purely scientific. Trust me, we have got some real breakthrough discoveries in the recent past we are about to publish on how the ancient psychological learning systems have been functional and what are the discoveries being made through the great kings like Krishna or any others. We have got some resounding validations and proofs on that. We want to publish them slowly. They're all scientific. They're not faking anything. They're not just writing something creatively. Only that they're trying to use a little creative space to explain something. But truth be said, they have a lot of element of or a figment of logical sense in it, and we need to take it from them. That's what I was trying to give as an example, and I really appreciate every one of your time. Thanks a lot, TEDx, for this opportunity.